Good evening, everyone. Welcome to OTB Live. Our special guest tonight is track announcer Jack Lee from Suffolk Meadows. We'll get to Jack in just a minute. Let me remind you that our phone number here is 370-1315. We'll go to the phones after a little discussion. And let me remind you also that if you have a problem with OTB business, or if you have any reason at all to try to communicate with us here about OTB business, racing questions, anything going on in your mind about the world of horse racing, drop me a line here at OTB Live, care of Greg Giorgio, 510 Smith Street, Schenectady, New York, 12305, and we hope that we'll be able to answer your question or problem as soon as possible. Now, with us tonight as our special guest is track announcer Jack Lee, a man who we've had a long and great association with from his days at Roosevelt Raceway. He's now the race caller at Suffolk Meadows Quarter Horse track on Long Island, and we have had the good fortune to be able to pick up quarter horse simulcasting from Long Island as well. And Jack, it's good to have you back in the Capital District.
Greg, it's nice to be with you. It brings back a lot of memories.
It sure does. And we want to remind everybody that we know you've probably heard about it by now, but just in case you haven't, Jack will be on hand at the Teletheater tomorrow at 11 a.m. and at 6 p.m. for seminars about this quarter horse racing sport that many of us have not had all that much exposure to, and we hope that you'll get a chance to stop by. There'll be free coffee and donuts in the food court at the Teletheater tomorrow, again 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. I'll be there at 11, and I believe Dan Oso will be on hand at 6 p.m. To help host the proceedings. So we hope you get a chance to get by tomorrow and get more in depth with this quarter horse sport as Jack will present his seminar at the Teletheater. Jack, this has got to be a big switch, and first of all, I just want to open things up by saying it's been mentioned before, and I'm sure it'll get brought up again, but you did not leave Roosevelt Raceway of your own accord.
No, I didn't.
To get where you are today.
No, I didn't, Greg. In fact, today is a year ago that I was called in and was axed. And I'm glad to be back. Started with Suffolk Meadows May the 20th. I've had a 19-week refresher course on quarter horse racing, and I have to say this honestly, that comparing the two sports, for 18 years at Roosevelt, I could have fallen asleep on many occasions because of the lack of really, not interest, but the lack of excitement, the lack of action. That is not the case at Suffolk Meadows.
Don't blink, as they always say.
And yes, and on our special 220-yard, that's the shortest event, I tell the folks to buckle their seat belts. Quarter horse racing is something new to me, but I enjoy it, and I'm up for every race because I don't know what's going to happen. Harness racing, being around 18 years, sometimes I thought I was driving them up there myself, and but I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here. When you line up the horses in the gate, they're out, and it's over quickly, but I think the fans will enjoy it.
Well, as we discussed earlier, it's not pretty. Horses get out of the gate in a thoroughbred race, and there may be some conscious thought as to, well, let me see what I can do for 3/8 of a mile here before I try to chase that horse who I think is the best.
Right.
In a quarter horse race, that doesn't exist. That strategy doesn't really exist.
Now everybody, Greggy, is going right from hell-bent for leather. As soon as that gate springs, that's the nature of the quarter horse. They want to run, and you will never find anybody coming up to you and say, "Oh, that jockey held that horse back." It's impossible to hold a quarter horse back.
They're too strong, and they're too eager, I think, in most cases.
That's right. They, in fact, a lot of problems occur at the gate because of the fact that they don't like to be jammed into that small space. They feel that something is going to happen to them.
I think many of the fans who have been at the simulcast have noted that they do spend a lot of time in the gate compared to even the thoroughbreds. And I guess part of what you just said is part of that reason why they're standing. It seems as though they're standing clear and ready to go, and then they don't go quite yet.
Now, the problem for that, Greggy, on the straightaway sprints is that you're dealing with a lot of young horses. A lot of them don't have too much experience. A lot of them cause problems. The older horses who race mainly on the backstretch races around the hook, as they call it, or the turn, so that people understand what we're talking about. They're more familiar, they're veterans, and usually when they load them in, and it's a quick go and they're gone. But they do have problems, and I must say this. I think a lot of the people who are involved behind the scenes of racing, whether it be quarter horse or thoroughbreds, those fellows who work the starting gate, they're unsung heroes because they take a lot of their life in their hands with some of these fractious horses. I've seen a couple of them somersault, Greggy, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's
right in that small space.
It's hard to believe it. How much an average quarter horse? He's about 1,200 pounds, isn't he?
They range from about 1,050, 1,100. They go up to 1,200 pounds. Yeah, and you're dealing with a high keg of dynamite right there.
Certainly, certainly. Those guys are in jeopardy at any given time behind that gate. Jack, a lot of the things we've talked about, we've surfaced so far, deal with the unpredictability. It's an explosive sport. They get out of the gate, like you said, hell-bent for leather. We're talking about a situation where there are a lot of young horses. As a matter of fact, the big focus in quarter horse racing is on younger horses.
That's right.
As it is in most regards in thoroughbred and harness racing, but really the big money is centered for 2-year-olds in quarter horse racing more than it is for the older horses.
Believe it or not, Greggy, the thoroughbreds and the harness both talk about them big races. A month ago, they held the biggest race of all time at Ruidoso Downs in New Mexico, and the race for 2-year-olds was worth in total $2,300,000. The thoroughbreds don't have a race of that stature. The Meadowlands over in New Jersey, I believe, has gone $2 million.
But they haven't kept it up there consistently.
No, they haven't.
Below the last.
And this All-America Futurity, they expect in the years to come will be worth $3 and $4 million, and that's for 21 seconds. The winner got $1.3 million. So you break that down, that's pretty good money for every step he took. And it's also worth a lot of money talking about for breeding.
Sure.
That's the situation there.
Jack, because of the unpredictability of the sport, everybody may be saying to themselves, well, then how do I make any kind of conclusion as to what kind of betting situations I'm going to feel comfortable with? And that's where we want to try to get into what one of our main focuses is here on picking winners at the quarter horse track and at Suffolk Meadows is the speed index. The speed index is something that's got a little bit of a working to it, and I think that you're better prepared to explain that than anybody else at this point. So touch on that, and let's show the folks a little bit more what that's about.
All right, Greggy, the American Quarter Horse Association, which is based in Amarillo, Texas, they grade every quarter horse track in the country, and of course a lot of people don't realize that there are well over 100 tracks, quarter horse tracks all over North America. Many of them, of course, are not pari-mutuel tracks, but the American Quarter Horse Association has what they call a speed index based on each track's performance, and since Suffolk Meadows is a brand new track, they're working with minimum standard time. It's what we call MST. And you can see on the screen now the speed index. There are actually 11 different distances that quarter horses run, 9 of which we feature at Suffolk Meadows. The 250, of course, right now is not in operation at Suffolk Meadows, and neither is the 550. But starting with the 220, that is the shortest sprint of all. We have just started that a couple of weeks ago, and our track record for 220 yards, and it's an eye blinker, believe me, 12.05 seconds. Now, the speed index for any horse ranges from 1 to 100. 100 is perfection, and of course, anything you go over 100, he becomes super. What we have underlined that you can see is a 95 speed index, and that would be for 220 yards. The horse was timed in 12.03 seconds. Now, the actual track record at Suffolk Meadows is one step below that, which at 12.05, which makes that a 95.
Yeah, we got the 96.
Right, 96, and I believe that we should be able to come into that category within the next week or two. But 100 is the top, and that's a AAA rating. That's a superstar in quarter horse racing, 100 or above. If you can break into that 90 category, And you can see when you get the program, when you bet on Suffolk Meadows, that horses that are in that 90 are few and far between. So you don't have a whole conglomerate of